opportunity to look over those minutes. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll do a motion.
Second.
All in favor? Yes.
Yes.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. On to our next order of business on the agenda. Maria, can you read the resolution?
Sure. A resolution authorizing the chair or vice chair to enter into a design and construction management fee agreement with the City of Chattanooga, Tennessee, Chattanooga Professional Baseball LLC, and Perimeter Properties LLC relating to the payment of architect fees for design services and construction management at-risk fees for pre-construction, construction management services, and early procurement construction packages for the proposed stadium in the South Broad District Ballpark for up to $3.3 million total to be equally shared among the City of Chattanooga, Chattanooga Professional Baseball LLC, and Perimeter Properties LLC, with such funds expected to be reimbursed from bond proceeds from bonds expected to be issued by the Sports Authority, SA 017.
Okay, Jermaine?
Yes, good afternoon. Jermaine Freeman, Interim Chief of Staff from the Office of Mayor Kelly. So this resolution is a companion resolution that is very similar to a resolution that is currently working its way through City Council, through the Chattanooga City Council, which the Chattanooga City Council will vote to consider on this coming Tuesday. And so essentially, as you all will remember, at your previous meetings, you all approved resolutions subject to the availability of funding for construction manager at risk of EMJ Corporation, as well as the design services for DHW Architects. And so this agreement allows for the city, in partnership with Perimeter Properties and Chattanooga Baseball LLC, to provide those funds to be able to pay both the EMJ as construction manager at risk and also DHW Architects as the architect of record. And so that is what the agreement is there for, to provide funding until the point at which this body is able to issue bonds. Obviously, because the Sports Authority has not issued bonds at this point, you all don't have any funding, and so this provides an opportunity for those three parties to contribute to the Sports Authority to provide interim funding to be able to pay those pre-construction services and the design services for the architects.
Okay. Are there any questions from the board?
Yeah, the only question I had was just more clerical, but I don't know how important it is, on this resolution request form, under grantors in the middle of the page on the right, they've got baseball with two S's, so I don't know how official we need to be here. But I just saw that, I didn't know if it needed to be fixed, but.
We will make the correction. Thank you,
Gotcha.
sir. Yes.
Yeah, Jermaine, I mean, it feels like there's been a few requests to approve funding before the bonds are issued. I mean, is that a fairly normal practice? Is it unusual? I mean, I think most of us obviously don't have experience with this, and just want to understand the timeline of.
Yeah, so I think there are sort of two approaches. And one approach, a city or sports authority might go ahead and issue bonds sort of at the very beginning of the process, and then those bonds then provide all of the financing that's needed for these transactions to take place. In another scenario, I think what the city and county, by virtue of the sports authority, have sort of chosen to take a different approach, in which the interim financing provided will allow us to get better ideas of cost for the stadium before bonds get issued. I think there's just two different approaches. The approach that we're taking is actually the exact same approach that the city of Knoxville and Knox County are taking as they go through this process right now as we speak. And they recently just issued bonds for the stadium, for the AA team stadium that they've been planning for the last 2 years.
Thanks.
Yes.
So further down the road, if cost forecasts are extended to greater amounts than anticipated, is it going to be the same process thereafter to extend additional bonds? Is the same funding for that going to be the same?
Well, I think that's part of the value of this process is having the architect of record as well as the construction manager at risk will allow us to get a good sense of what the total cost will be. And then, of course, there will be a process during which there will be some value engineering. Let's say the costs come in higher than expected. There will be a chance to value engineer to bring the cost back down to an affordable level. But yes, to the extent that there are, any costs that would exceed any forecast, that would obviously require additional approvals before any decisions are made.
So we've already received, or you all have already seen some requests for reimbursement for expenses of like architectural fees and the land work. Those folks are just gonna have to wait 90 to 120 days to,
Well, so,
is there anything
yeah.
process?
Yeah, well, hopefully it won't take us 90 to 120 days
Well,
to.
if we go back to when
to
the land,
reimburse. Yeah.
was
But-
being tested.
Yeah, but some of the due diligence services, the city went ahead and paid for as part of some of the surveying and some of the early due
Okay.
diligence work. And so this resolution for this agreement is specifically for the pre-construction and design work of EMJ and DHW.
Correct.
The vendors and contractors that did the early due diligence sort of survey work, they have already been paid
Okay.
through the city.
Okay, they've already asked the questions that I was gonna ask, but just one more thing of clarification. Had this body already approved an authorization to issue bonds?
So this body has not, let me figure out the best way to put this. The city and county have already approved the ability to backstop the bonds and to provide for the backstop of the bonds. But the Sports Authority will have to take action to actually move forward with issuing the bonds and to provide the authorization.
And this is an internal administrative question, but I recall that in order to be reimbursed from government bonds, not necessarily this authority's bonds, but I just want to make sure that this technicality is addressed. There had to be a resolution expressing the intent to issue bonds prior to or within 60, 90 days of the incurrence of the expenditures in order for the funds to be able to be used for that purpose. So I just ask that you just double check that and make sure that the I's are dotted, T's are crossed, because there are a lot of days between the incurrence of the cost and the issuance of the bonds.
Sure.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am, thank you for that. And I appreciate that, and we can certainly have Mr. Noblet, when he's back, to check on that bond resolution requirement. But to the extent of the resolution that's before you today, this resolution just simply allows the Sports Authority to issue into a partnership with the city, Chattanooga Professional Baseball, and Perimeter Properties, so that these interim expenses provided from the architect and EMJ, the construction manager at risk, that there is a means to pay for those expenses.
Yeah, but it specifically mentions that I'm going to pay this by way of bond proceeds. I'm going to reimburse you for this by way of bond proceeds. So,
Yes.
I don't think there'll be a problem. It's just one of those, making sure I's are dotted. And one other thing, is the county a participant in this? I noticed that parties here are city and two other organizations. If for some reason this authority could not issue those bonds, I know that's way out there and it's not going to happen, then the city, who pays? I mean, how does that, just these three organizations, is the county a participant?
That's correct. So for this particular agreement, because the city has project managed most of this process to date, the city, in consultation with the county and in partnership with Chattanooga Professional Baseball and Perimeter Properties, we pay for these interim expenses. However, if the bonds are issued, and when the bonds are issued, the county and the city are providing the backstop for the bonds. To the extent that the TIF revenues fall short, if TIF revenues in the TIF district fall short. And so that is one of the things I think to remind people in terms of understanding how the backstop works, is that the bonds are actually securitized to TIF revenues. And so to the extent that there is additional development happening within the TIF district that produces enough new property tax increment to cover the debt service on the bonds, the city and county don't pay as long as there is additional tax revenue coming in within the TIF district. The city and county make up the shortfall for any sort of shortages in projected or forecasted TIF revenues.
Okay, one last just comment. I just wanted to, part of the reason for the first question is to make sure that the bond proceeds can be used to reimburse ourselves for this. And if there's a 0.01% chance that it's not, then the city takes the risk, along with having incurred that cost by itself, right?
Right, and this again is a very similar process to what Knoxville had to go through. Yeah, but yes,
Thank you.
yes, ma'am.
Any more questions or comments? All right. Thank you, Jermaine.
Yes, sir.
Is there a motion for approval of this resolution?
I'll move for approval.
Second,
Second.
all in favor? All opposed? None. Motion passes.
I was just going to add, we would, the Sports Authority, obviously you all have had a chance now to see some of the renderings from Jim Irwin around what the new stadium looks like. The renderings look phenomenal, and so we're all very excited about the direction of the design of the stadium. And so one of the ideas that we've had that we would like to encourage this body to consider is whether or not at a future proposed meeting, maybe in October when it's a little cooler, because as all of you know, we've had some very hot days recently, but perhaps in October for a meeting, if the Sports Authority might be amenable to meeting on site and doing a tour and sort of doing a walk around of the US Pipe and Wheeling Foundry site, so that you can get a firsthand kind of feel for where the stadium could be proposed to, would be proposed to be built, and as well as how it could integrate with the Riverwalk and some of the other existing infrastructure there. So I only throw that out as an idea. That's up to you all as members of the Sports Authority. But we would certainly, I think that it could be a valuable exercise for this body to have a chance to actually walk around and get a feel for the site. Obviously, right now it's difficult to drive over there, and it's a lot of it is secluded and cut off. But our good friends from Perimeter Properties, I know, would have no problem opening up the property to allow all of you all to have a special visit. So we just wanted to put that out there for the Sports Authority.
I think it's an excellent idea.
I agree.
Yes.
All right.
Welcome that.
Thank you.
All right, well then what I will do then is I will begin the process of working with Maria to staff and to coordinate the logistics for that visit. And so we'll shoot for the month of October, if that's okay with the board. So
Okay.
that way if you wear your suits or your nice dresses, you won't sweat too much. So,
All right.
all right?
Right. Do we have anyone else speaking today? Any more questions? Hey, Jermaine, I do have a question.
Yes, sir.
At the last meeting, I know we discussed, we had a meeting with presentation from the South Broad Street.
From the Community Benefits Coalition? Yes.
How do we move forward with that? I know we had a big meeting and we talked about it. Has there been any follow-up?
Yes, so as an official body that is quasi-governmental, under state law, you all don't have the ability to enter into a community benefits agreement. Neither does the city and neither does the county, okay? So what I think will happen is that our private sector partners under state law can enter community benefits agreements. And so what the Community Benefits Coalition wanted you to hear was they wanted you to hear and to know about their concerns, but they will need to negotiate directly with Perimeter Properties and Chattanooga Baseball in order to get some of those concerns actually agreed upon in an official document. Now, as you all think about things, when you think about this body will be the body that enters into a lease with the baseball team. And this body will also have to enter into a donation agreement for acceptance of the property. There may be community concerns that you would like to see addressed in those agreements, whether it's the lease agreement or the donation agreement. But in terms of actually entering into the community benefits agreement, that's an agreement that has to be done between the private sector partners, because under state law, you all as a quasi-governmental body are not allowed to do that.
Okay,
Does that help?
yes.
Okay.
Is there anyone here from Perimeter Properties?
Yes, we do. Did you have a question?
It's separate from this. So that's-
Okay.
Sorry, I'm Andy Stone with Perimeter Properties. We have circulated a draft of the CBA, legal document, to Caleb, and we are meeting again with them the week of August 21st to work through some of those details. So we've taken it very seriously, us and Hardball Capital, Jim Irwin as our master developer, to actually get this accomplished. It'll be the first one in the city of Chattanooga. So we drafted the legal document, sent it to them for the review, and we're sitting down here on the 21st. And so been a great relationship with them so far, and we hope to keep progressing and getting that across.
Okay, I appreciate it if you kept us abreast to the movement of that. Is there anyone else?
Yeah, I've got one other question for Jermaine. Just from a high level perspective, this is on my third board meeting as a part of the Sports Authority, but have there been any outlines given to the Sports Authority in the past in terms of like the overall project and timelines and kind of the goals associated with different timelines as we're issuing funding, as we're doing these different things? If there has been, I'd like to get it. If not, I think that would be very helpful for some of us that are kind of new to this, but also just to see from a high level what the goals are on timing and different things. Because you read the paper, you see these different things, and 2025 or these dates, and just kind of to keep us on point of knowing what timelines we're working with and what the goals associated are. So
Yes, we can get you that information. I'll have Bill Payne, the city's engineer, get you sort of the timelines for all of the sort of construction things, as well as the bond stuff as well.
okay, awesome.
Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah, but just the big timeline, of course, that we're all working towards is April of 2025, which is when we hope to have a new stadium built and open for baseball, right, Jason?
Plan.
Yeah. So. I'm sorry.
Janice Gooden. I am representing Caleb. Just wanted to let you know that we are here, and I can confirm what Andrew said. We are meeting, and hopefully we will have a meeting next week.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
As a follow-up to that as well, I wasn't here at the last meeting, but I read the minutes, and there was quite a bit of discussion about the hopes and expectations of the community relative to this project. And sort of, I want to echo what's already been said, and that is, we'd kind of like to be, they want us to be advocates. That's why we're here. We want to be advocates. So the question becomes, how can we best do that? How can we best be informed and manage or monitor that to make sure that those concerns are at least addressed? I know everything won't happen to satisfy everybody, but how will that be reported to us?
Yes, is that a question?
Yes.
So I think that, you all ultimately have the power over the lease. And so if there are community concerns, I think that you want to make sure are addressed in the lease, as well as the donation agreement of the property, you all have the ability to send a clear message that there are certain community concerns that you want to make sure are addressed. Now, you don't have the power under state law to enter into a direct agreement with Caleb, or with any of the other groups in terms of the actual community benefits agreement. But you do have the ability as a body of government, as a body of quasi-governmental agency to be able to say, we would like to ensure that there are certain community concerns that get addressed in these agreements. And you can send that message loud and clear to us
Yeah,
as staff.
and of course, we will send that message. My real question was, how do we monitor response to that these concerns are actually addressed, as opposed to saying, and maybe somebody else needs to answer that. So how can we expect that to happen?
Well, we are happy to ensure that you all receive drafts of both the donation agreement, which you would receive anyway, as well as a draft of the lease, which you would also receive anyway. But you all as individual members of the Sports Authority, not collectively as the Sports Authority, but as individual members, you do have the ability to ask, Ms. Janice, if you could be on her email list, for example, so that she could share the community benefits agreements with you, so that you have a chance to see those for yourselves.
Yeah, and I don't want to get that granular, we don't want to, because, but maybe have someone report to us routinely as to what is happening in that regard. It's like she's already reported that a meeting is scheduled, and whatever it is that they discuss and decide to do, that's great, but what we really want to know is it happening? Has it
Yes.
happened?
Yes.
How will it happen, or will it happen?
Well, I don't want to volunteer, Ms. Janice, but she seems like she would be a great person to report to me.
Sounds like it
But
to
I
me
think
too.
that we could certainly leave that up to her and the other members of Caleb. But I think we could certainly arrange for that to occur as part of the regular meeting process.
We can keep you informed of the meetings, we'll just spare you the details. How about that?
Well, I don't want details as in details, but I really would want to know, this is what was requested, and this is what we've done, or will do, and not just, I have a meeting.
So I can speak a little bit to that. So the legal framework of the CBA, which we actually modeled after what Nashville did with the soccer stadium up there, actually has reporting requirements associated with it. So there needs to be a checks and balances of the agreements that are made between the private sector and with the citizens of Chattanooga. And so there is that outlined in the CBA, in the draft document that's been circulated. So not necessarily, I do not believe it reports to this board specifically, but it's check-in points with Caleb and how we look at those things and look at those items.
And that's, again, one last time, because I think it's our responsibility, I think that's what the citizens are expecting. And we don't want to be surprised that, that was in the agreement, but it didn't happen. And it's not that we think everything is going to happen, but there are reasons for things not happening that you'd like to see happen. And then that's just what we kind of, I think I would just ask that you do that to the extent that you can.
We can, and I think that just as we had the presentation last week, we can ensure that in coordination with your review and approval of both the lease for the team as well as the donation agreement for the property, that we can allow Caleb to come back in and present on the things that they were able to work out with both the property owners as well as the baseball team, so that you all hear directly from them as opposed to me or the team or the property owners. You can hear directly from them just as they presented last week.
Thank you. Thank you.
I've got something to add too. I had Miss Janice put me on the list, and so I get everything, and you do too. And so I know when the meetings are. I have attended one of their meetings. It's under the Caleb umbrella, but it was specifically the CBA, just to learn, just to listen and learn. And they had some breakout sessions, and they were writing on boards. And I said, okay, this is when I leave. And they totally understood. And I've also been meeting to have coffee with Rob Winslow, who is a part of the Caleb/CBA group, and we just talk. He mainly talks, and I listen. And so that's kind of how that goes. And then Jim Irwin called me about he texted me about 3 weeks ago, and he said, I'm going to meet with Dr. Ware over at Howard High School. I'd like for you to go with me. So it has not been lost on him that I'm about social justice and about this African-American neighborhood being recognized and about Howard being involved in the stadium. And so I was so ecstatic, I had to put the phone down and go, wow, this is good. So we did meet with Dr. Ware and several of her teachers, and it was probably one of the best meetings I've ever been in my life. He listened, I listened, and Dr. Ware talked about all the demographics there, the things that we needed to know, or that he needed to know as a developer, and I just needed to know as a community advocate. And some really good stuff came out of it. We're going to meet with them in a few weeks, and I'm really inspired, hopeful. I feel that we have a developer who really cares and has empathy for the community. So I share that with you in transparency, so you know that I'm there listening, not, I'm not getting deeply involved, but I'll share with this group what I learn, but it'll probably be in the paper before you hear it, because what I'm seeing are things that are not public yet, that Jim Irwin is saying. And so it's good.
And full transparency, I have not been to recent meetings, albeit the next, but I have been at those meetings, and I was at the earlier meetings when things were being added to those boards, and I talked with Dr. Ware about this and other things. But same thing, just as a listener, just to know as much as I can know.
Okay.
I guess that means I need to get on the list, huh? Yeah.
Miss Janice has a sign-up sheet. She's waiting.
I do, though, think it is important, though, that not just that I attend as a person, because right there, then I'm attending as a citizen primarily. I just think for official purposes that the board be reported to and documented so that if I die and kick the bucket, it will be on the record.
Well, let's certainly hope not.
Not happening.
Any more questions or comments? And the reason the board is doing this is, in the past, we've had these big projects. A lot of funds have been spent from the taxpayers, city of Chattanooga and Hamilton County, and it all seems like you get the same results. It's no change in the inner city community. And the board, I believe, is all in agreement that we really want to push this Chattanooga agreement, Southside Chattanooga agreement with, and one of the things that I think that we really want to see is the community be exposed to this whole process. It's challenging to deal with an $80 million project. All of us, it's challenging to us. And as growing up as a kid and not being exposed to some of these things like that, sometimes it's just the exposure. The regular jobs that are there, bricklayers, stuff like that. I'm talking about the whole set, from engineering, from everything. Maybe some of our kids from Howard, maybe UTC, or some people from the community. Just see how this thing comes together. But that's all I had to say.
Well, if I may, Mr. Chair, I think we all, certainly the city, the county, and Chattanooga Baseball and Perimeter Properties all share that same sentiment. If you look at the geography of this area and you look at the TIF district, the inclusion of Howard High School is very much intentional. And so it is very much our goal as Ms. Weeks knows, to make sure that Howard students and the Howard campus and Howard School feels very much part of this entire development. And if, what we certainly want to avoid is having a situation where kids who are less than a mile down 26th Street, having a situation where those kids feel like all of the new development is not for them. We want them to feel very much as if this is part of their community, this is part of their neighborhood. They have every right and every opportunity to be a part of the development that happens there. And so we are certainly looking to explore additional ways that we could build partnerships with Howard in particular, because it's in the TIF district, and it's in the neighborhood. But yes, we definitely want to make sure that the neighborhood is happening, or that the neighborhood is very much connected to this development and can be proud of the development when all is said and done.
That's good. Thank you, Jermaine.
Yes, sir.
Is there no more discussions? Do we have a motion for the meeting adjournment? Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned.